So, Dragon Age the Veilguard is being described as a thin coat of paint and a borderline soft reboot. Not very reassuring for people, I guess, but you know. YouTuber Neon Knight, who claims to have played over 7 hours of Dragon Age the Veilguard, described it as a thin coat of paint. In a recent upload to YouTube, Neon Knights said, "So with Dragon Age: The Veilguard, there has been a lot of attempts, in my opinion, to convince the general public that this game is something that it really isn't. To convince you to reject the evidence to your eyes and ears and what you've been seeing in trailers and previews, and believe that Dragon Age DNA and Veilguard, specifically its gameplay, is anything more than a very thin coat of paint." He continued, as someone who's played the game for about 7 hours a few weeks ago, well, I guess my thesis statement is here that it isn't. A thin coat of paint is more or less exactly what Veilguard has to offer longtime fans, and serious level-headed discussion about this is completely hampered by what would be an almost universal refusal to just say that out loud. End me, please. From there, he shared that the game will be compared to God of War 2018. He said the game's combat and exploration is full blown, or at least 85% of what God of War 2018 were, or at least 28, God of War 2018 worship. This new Dragon Age is about the action, building up a rage meter to release an ultimate, getting your preferred parries in, shield throws, talismans that activate special abilities, plenty of pots to break and chest to open. You get it. Point is, somebody really liked God of War 2018 and said, "Why don't we just do that and be done with it?" Next, he noted that the game will also be compared to the Guardians of the Galaxy video game regarding its tone. This is the point of the video game where some of the recoil and horror and maybe projectile vomit, but it's also the point where at least some of you are probably thinking, "Hey, those are two not bad games at all. You could do much worse in terms of comparison." And yeah, if you're thinking that, I completely agree. However, he noted these two games are not what Dragon Age fans are expecting a Dragon Age game to be compared to. So there's no denying that the Dragon Age fan base of just 6 months ago would have torn that imaginary person apart for merely suggesting such a thing. Yet ultimately, that's the type of game BioWare has made here. That actually continue on, or like, because these have a habit of like, yeah, like what is that? What? Um, all right. He wanted to claim that BioWare tried to make a very palatable game here that could appeal to everyone. Sure. Instead of directly targeting their own fan base and hopefully breaking out from there, an ideal approach, in my opinion. Veilguard is a quippy action adventure, is trying hard at times, and has its moments. It's just not that quip-filled action game. It's just not a quip-filled action game. Is not what most Dragon Age fans were asking for. Uh, he shared that he was incredibly disappointed when I found out that Veilguard allows you to import a grand total of, wait for it, 0 choices from Origin, 0 choices from Dragon Age 2, and just 3 from Inquisition, the game that Veilguard is a direct sequel to. As for the choices from Inquisition, he shared that the only thing that carry over are who your Inquisitor romanced, whether you choose to disband the Inquisition, or whether you chose to stop Solus. Wow, quite a range of options there. He opined BioWare are doing this very strange with Veilguard. On one hand, it's a direct sequel with a bunch of returning characters in prominent roles. Yet on the other, it's a borderline soft reboot trying to minimize every direct tie to the past in an attempt to avoid scaring off non-Dragon Age fans. Well, he says that the decision that uh, decisions take what made Dragon Age stand out and reducing it to a shell of itself. Kind of like most of these games and companies now, they're just a shell of themselves. Later in the video, he described Veilguard as a very linear game. At least it feels that way 99% of the time. Oh, oh, good. At least that like 1%, it's something different, right? He added, sure, from the lighthouse base of operations, you can decide what missions go on, you want to do. I don't believe things are forced in a specific order, but ultimately you're doing a mission, which is what you're doing, going to be doing most of the time. You're being funneled down a set path with very little offshoots here and there to find some gear or an optional enemy, maybe. I can't stand games like that. I mean, I love, like, if you have a game like Dragon Age, it needs to be like an exploration kind of thing. You know, not some kind of like dungeon crawler or anything like that. Very linear, where it's like, oh, hey, look, there's a path, but then it just like circles back to where you were because it's like, oh, it's just go over there and find a chest or something, and that's it. Um, but we're at the point where some of these games should probably try to branch out into something new because Dragon Age, given its setting, is perfect for an open world game. And I'm sure people would appreciate that a lot more, considering how well open world games have been working in the past. So, you know, you can't say, oh well, it's Dragon Age, and it's always, yeah. Well, let me think. Zelda was never an open world game, and seems to be doing just fine, like one. Uh, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, even Echoes of Wisdom. That's more of an open world game. Seems to be doing just fine. So sometimes if you have a setting like, a medieval fantasy type game, having open world is going to be a lot more beneficial than just having this linear path that you have to follow. Um, the fact that they're saying it's like a thin coat of paint that they're like slapping a band-aid on it and hoping it just gets better. Comparing it to God of War 2018 or Guardians of the Galaxy. Um, the choices and all that, just basically from the previous games, having Inquisition with the only one that has any major effect and any kind of real choice of consequences. It's kind of sad. You've got these other games. It's like, whoa, they're supposed to all be linked, aren't they? You have one that's a direct sequel, or you have this one that's like a direct sequel, and it's just like, well, so I guess my choices in those games really didn't matter. Kind of like Life is Strange with the new one, the double exposure. Apparently, it's choices at the end that you made at the end of the game didn't really matter because it's like, well, let's just make both endings canon. So, um, but of course, Life is Strange. That's just like the game. The double exposure is just kind of focusing on that one game of the original Life is Strange. Here, you've got 3 other games for it to, call back to, and they're like, no, that would just take one. Just take one. That'll be fine. We don't want to overload them. But yeah, the reducing it's the shell. Yeah, that's just how companies have been lately, for like past several years. That's all they feel like are just shells of themselves. Even Hollywood. Disney's just a shell of what it used to be. Gaming companies like EA, uh, Ubisoft, all of them, they're just a shell of what they used to be. It is the age of shells. Um, Gone are the glory days of video games. It is now the age of shells. And cheese, I hope. I do say I do love me some shells and cheese. How the cheese gets in the shell all nice. Ooh, it's so good. It's so cheesy, so good. I love it. Uh, I'm sorry. I like when it comes to macaroni and cheese, like the Kraft ones, those little tiny, noodles. No, no. You want something that where the cheese can coat the entire thing, not just the outside. Those noodles, they're so thin nothing can get in there. So you want something where the cheese coats the entire thing, like the shells, because you always get that little bit of cheese like right where the shell kind of curls up. You get that nice little bit of cheese in there and more extra flavor. It's so good. I love it. I always love a good shells and cheese. It doesn't matter what kind of cheese, as long as it's good. Maybe a nice 3 cheese or something, and I'll add some more cheese, in which it might be a 6 cheese afterwards. John, you're stupid. I know. But yeah, and then the lighthouse with the base of operations, going on your mission, it's just kind of sounds like World of Warcraft and their little mission boards. It's like, oh, you can pick here. You're eventually going to go everywhere anyway, but oh, you can at least choose where you start off. And it's like, oh, great, I have a sense of choice now. But then you do all the options. It's like, oh, I'll start here first. Okay, next time I'll start here first. And then I'll start. Well, okay, it looks like I've started everywhere first. Now it's just boring. But yeah, I'm not surprised that this apparently is shaping up to be a bad game. No one's surprised. No one's surprised. I think if this game is released and it, you know, makes us blow a load all over the place, I'll be surprised. Like, I'd actually really be surprised. But I don't think anyone's going to be playing this game just like, oh, it's like Food Fight or whatever, where they eat and their clothes just come flying off. Yeah, I don't think it'll be like that for this game. I don't think they'll just be, oh, and everything's just flying off, and people down the street are hearing girls moaning and everything because they're playing this game that's so freaking good. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't think it's going to be that great of a game. Hello, boys and ghouls. Vincent Price. I mean, that's who it looks like, in my opinion, Vincent Price. Especially the little mustache thing going on. Anyway, what do you think? Are you looking forward to the game? Let me know. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.